to Mental Health Momentum, a Silicon Slopes podcast. I'm Dr. David Morgan. I'm a licensed psychologist and the director of mental health awareness here at Silicon Slopes. And on this podcast, we talk about mental health issues in business and beyond, and we look for solutions. Let me introduce my guest to you today, Celeste Merrill. Hello, Celeste.
Hi, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Let me tell you about Celeste. She is a human-centered strategist and mental health advocate who believes systems should serve people, not the other way around. As strategic initiatives consultant at Vibrant Emotional Health, she partners with leadership on strategic planning, fundraising, and organizational development. A mother of four with lived mental health experience, Celeste brings both professional depth and personal understanding to her work. Her career spans health startups, organizational consulting, foundation leadership, and board service, bringing structure to ambiguity and heart to strategy. Whether advising organizations or coaching leaders through transitions, she centers compassion, equity, and sustainable impact in everything that she builds. Well, thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
We didn't know that we kind of know each other.
Yeah. That was a great connection to make here.
Right. Turns out that I know your husband fairly well,
Yeah.
but we had not connected in that space, so that was kind of crazy. So
Yeah, really fun.
It's wonderful. So I am super glad that you're here. Okay, so I want to talk about just your own experiences with mental health, and you said you with lived mental health experience. So tell me what that means.
Yeah, it's kind of a broad line, isn't it? I grew up in a family that didn't talk about mental health. I grew up in a time that didn't talk about mental health. And I struggled in various times in various ways throughout my life, but I didn't really even know I had a problem until a friend of mine came and said, I really feel like you need some help. And I had done all the things that I felt like I could do on my own, everything I knew. And I was so grateful that this friend said, you need some support. I ended up in an inpatient facility, and from there was connected to therapy and resources that have really changed my life.
How old were you?
In my 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, in my 30s. So I was a mom of children, and at these different times, like, I look back and I'm like, oh, I slept through 80% of my classes in college, and when I was, having children and finding that I felt physically unable to care for them because emotionally I was so overwhelmed. But I didn't recognize that as anything other than my own failure, my own inadequacies, my own inabilities, until this friend of mine who was a trained therapist and noticed the signs and saw something. And in fact, when I went into the facility, I told her, I don't think I'm worth helping. I don't think I have anything that's worth even trying for. And she obviously saw something different, but that was how my mind was working at that time. And so coming out of that and really realizing that mental health is not just about coping, it's about thriving. That's really what has come from that journey. And it's hindsight is 2020, right? I can look back and say, well, if I had only, and now I hope to change that for others who are facing similar journeys.
I love that. I love what you said about mental health being more than coping, it's thriving. And you're right. If you looked at that in the physical health sense, same thing, right? You could say, well, I hope I'm just not sick all the time, which would be like coping, right? Just
Right.
avoiding disease, avoiding being sick, as opposed to, wouldn't I like to feel great? Wouldn't I want to, have a strong body and a healthy body, that gives me energy and where I can do the things that I want to do. And we can get there.
Right.
It takes effort.
Yeah. I had a gym for a while, owned a gym, and because physical health was actually one of my primary focuses in my career, and in my experience, I would tell my athletes, like, work until you can't, rest until you can, and why don't we do that for our own mental health, right? Like, it's fine. You can take breaks. You can relax.
Yes.
You don't have to just keep trying, and it's not all about you, right? We have a community of people around us for a reason. And I think that's a really important part of that support network.
Yeah. I think there's like this guilt associated with our mental health. Like you said, when you went to the facility and you said, I'm not even worth helping, which is of course completely wrong.
Right.
But I've known you for 10 minutes and I know that was wrong.
Well, anyone is worth helping,
exactly,
right?
right,
Anyone,
exactly.
right.
I think there's this feeling like I should be able to do this. I should be able to do this on my own. And since I can't, then I'm somehow sort of a failure. Whereas no one would think, well, I should be able to run a 10K without training. And since I can't, I'm a failure. They would just say, well, no, I'm just out of shape.
Right.
I
Right.
can't run a 10K because I'm out of shape.
Right.
But people say I should be happier. And so I think there's this, because of that guilt and that kind of distorted perception that keeps us from asking for help. And even when we ask for help, mental health improvement is complex.
It's very different.
It's way different than just going out for a walk or, cutting your calories or eating more protein or something. There's so many nuances to it.
I think that's true. And I think the other thing is that we don't recognize that mental health means that we work on our mental health.
Yeah.
It's not that when I'm in crisis, I need to talk to someone. It's actually that, we have healthy bodies because we focus on having healthy bodies. You can find different, models for having health, physical health all over the place, whether it's through food or exercise or whatever. But in mental health, often I think we think, no, I'll just let it go until I can't anymore. If we took advantage of this health system that you're describing and recognize that mental health comes through focusing on health, letting that be part of the work where our mental health, the quality of our mental health is improved as we just focus on what can I do to improve my mental health, my my support network, and gain the skills that I need in order to have the healthy body and mind that we all deserve.
Yeah, it's a real contemporary approach, and I think something that's only surfaced maybe in the past 10 years. For so long, mental health has been viewed in kind of in the deficit model. Like you go when you're sick, right? That's when you go get help, when you're depressed to the point where you can't get out of bed, or you're anxious to the point where you can't leave your house. And so that's when you go get help. And then you hopefully get established back to the point of just being normal, just be, just holding on, right?
Right.
So now I can leave the house, or I can get a few things done, as opposed to thinking, what can I do to optimize my mental health? What can I do go in the opposite direction?
Right.
And I don't know that we have, it's interesting because as a psychologist, I'm not trained in that. I mean, I'm trained in the deficit model. I'm trained in, okay, this person has major depressive disorder and here are the things to do to help this person feel less depressed. But I don't know, and my training was 30 years ago. I don't know if they're doing more training now in how to optimize mental health. That'd be an entirely different thing, right? If someone said, I go to a counselor, I don't have any depression or any anxiety, but I go because I want to have even greater mental health. I don't know that we think about that as much as a society, though, even in our physical health, right? We don't necessarily try to optimize that. We just go when we get sick. We go to the doctor when we get sick. We don't go and say, hey, I'm feeling great. What can I do to feel better? Insurance won't even pay for that, right?
Right. Well, that's what I'm thinking, is that our system isn't set up for that.
Right.
And because of the lack of professionals anyway. I mean, we already have a deficit there. If we just start to use professionals as like, buddies or like support network, then I think that, we just aren't at that kind of capacity. Yeah. I do think there's opportunity for us, though, to practice supporting each other. Right. And, we call it peer-to-peer, or we call it, whatever. But I think when people can start to pay attention to their own mental health, when we have an awareness that just as a human, my mind needs support, help, that people are around who have resources and know things I don't know, and we lean into each other. I think that there's real opportunity there that doesn't add to the system that's already being taxed, and it doesn't cost the same as moving into a professional for just traditional support. And interestingly enough, I think this is one of those key places that AI is trying to add value. We have to be careful here, but I know people, a lot of people are using AI for friendship, and a lot of people are using it for therapy. And when we have some boundaries around that, if it directs people back to other people, or if it directs them to people, then there's some opportunity there, but there's a lot of risk as well. So
I agree. That is absolutely the Wild West. And I've had my concerns about AI being used for like personal counseling and that. But you're right, that there's a great company that I'm associated with, and they have a chatbot that basically helps with that. But it's constantly trying to refer people out. It's saying, oh, this sounds like something that a professional counselor could help with, or that. Whereas I worry that some of the more common AI programs that's not what they want. They want you, just like social media, right? They want you to stay in their system. They don't want you to come use them for 3 minutes a day and then go off and talk to someone else. And so that's part of the challenge, right? Are they gonna be willing to build something that is helpful in getting people out of their system, as opposed to building something that's going to keep them inside that wall? So we'll find out how that works.
It's tricky. And I think there is like a personal responsibility here, right?
I
A
agree.
personal responsibility to recognize that the answer to mental health solutions is not in a bot.
No,
It's in connecting to other people.
totally.
And so
Yes.
educating people to recognize that the human connection is the answer, and having people who can listen without judgment and offer support in ways that are actually helpful really does make all the difference.
That human connection is so critical as well because, well, for any number of reasons, but one of the reasons is because there's risk associated with it. With a chatbot, there's no risk.
Right.
It's going to tell you what you want to hear, and it's great. This is why some people, even like you said, use them for friendship or even romantic companionship.
Right.
Because how easy is that? But you engage in a real relationship with someone and you're like, well, sometimes the answer is no, and sometimes they aren't in the mood to talk, and so, but I think there's so much value in that. I think it builds resilience to enter into those sorts of those risky engagements, because then we take that risk to do that, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but then we become stronger as a result.
Right.
But if there's no resistance, that does not build resilience.
Doesn't build resilience. And if there's anything that I think our young people need to be able to build is resilience,
Absolutely.
which comes with disappointment. It comes with discouragement. It comes with change. And if you're looking to a bot to provide your answers, then the resilience, just as you said, it doesn't come. You don't build that muscle of picking yourself back up and knowing how to get the support you need with the resources and tools that are available.
Not only do you not build the muscle, but the muscle atrophies.
That's right.
You lose what you've got, what you had to begin with.
That's right.
I was just talking with a youth the other day about just taking risks and the same sort of thing, saying and they were like, yeah, but it's difficult. And I said, I know. That's the whole point. We have to go out and do things that are challenging, and really it's been in maybe just the past 10 or 15 years that we've had the option to engage with people other than face to face.
Right.
And so I think that's what's made it even more challenging. It's like, oh, well, this is easier to do it this way. It's easier to text someone. It's easier to, message them some way. And I do think that's amazing. I'm grateful for that we have that technology.
For sure.
But we need to make sure it doesn't take the place, because I don't know that. I think there's some connection that can happen through that, but it's not as authentic as face to face. Like these podcasts, people say, "Can you do them virtually?" I'm like, probably, but I don't like to.
Yeah. It doesn't have the same feel.
I love sitting across and talking to someone. So.
Yeah, that's so great.
So in the past, you worked with the Huntsman Family Foundation. So what did you do for them, and how did that relate to mental health?
I was the chief of staff and then the managing director at the Huntsman Family Foundation. The Huntsmans are such an incredible family in our area that we're so lucky to have them here. What I love about them, and maybe what I was surprised the most by, is that I learned that money isn't really the solution, right? That when you combine people who care and have the opportunity for influence and the resources available, they bring people together. And the community that the Huntsmans have built of people that also want to support people, right, that can ease human suffering, it's incredible. And I think that one of the best examples of that is the Kim and Carolyn Gardner Crisis Care Center that just opened in South Salt Lake, that provides access to anyone seeking mental health support in a crisis, 24 hours a day. It's
a physical location.
It's a physical.
It's like a mental health emergency room.
It is. That's exactly what it is. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 23 hours for free. That anyone can walk in. They'll be assessed, opportunity to de-escalate, and they start to receive therapeutic support within 15 minutes of arrival. It's an incredible place, and maybe the best part about it is that people receive care in a dignified, caring way. You walk in, and it's an incredible building. It's beautiful, but the thing that makes it special is not its beauty. It's really that opportunity to receive dignified care in a place where the rest of the world sort of sees mental health, or has seen mental health, as the back room, bottom barrel, like
Right.
get what you can and then move on. And the Huntsmen see it differently, and they have connected people in the area, philanthropists, businesses, even our local officials, to provide policies that support that. And I think that that's one of the things that philanthropy and philanthropists like the Huntsmans can do so well, because they care and they connect us to expertise and resources that matter.
I love that. When we lived in Washington State for several decades, and in Portland, which is close to where we lived, they had a place called the Crisis Triage Center, which is exactly that model, as a mental health emergency room. And this was 20 years ago. It was very progressive at the time, but same sort of thing. It was specific to psychiatric emergencies. And I love that, because even in a traditional emergency room, they're just dealing with everything, right? And I review reports all the time. No offense to my my emergency room physicians out there, but they're terrible at diagnosing.
It's not what they were trained to do.
No, it's not.
Yeah, we can't expect them.
And I don't expect them. You know?
Yeah.
And so I'll read through the things, and I'm like, oh man, this person doesn't have that. And so, which is good, because then eventually they get to where they need to go, and they get to meet with someone who has very specific training in mental health, and they can usually narrow things down and figure out a treatment plan.
But if there's another way, we should use it. And
Absolutely.
Something like this, where the Crisis Care Center can be a resource that doesn't tax our healthcare system. It adds, capacity to our emergency crews. Like, I just think it's such an important resource that would be amazing to replicate. So
absolutely. So how would you replicate it? I mean, would private companies be able to take this on, like hospitals? Would they do something like that, or what do you?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question.
There's only so much philanthropy to go around, right?
Right. I mean, and I think the thing about philanthropy is that it helps get things moving, right? But we can't rely on philanthropists to sustain programs like that. I think that requires policy changes, government impact, like other public and private partnerships to support the longevity of programs that are working. But philanthropists can take some risks and get us moving in the right direction. And so I think that's one of the things that those, people with those types of resources and that type of desire to make change really do want there to be something sustainable that comes out of it.
I appreciate you saying that, because I hadn't thought about that before. But yeah, they have the luxury of being able to break more eggs, right?
Yeah.
Because they can try something, and if it doesn't work, they're like, oh, okay, but there's plenty more where that came from. Whereas a for-profit business doesn't necessarily have that advantage. They have to say, okay, we need to know this is going to work before we invest time and energy into it. But if someone can prove the concept before that, then they could say, oh, look, here's someone who has started a viable business model, and now we see that we could do something similar.
Right.
I love that.
Right. And actually, I was talking to Kevin Curtis, who is the director at the Crisis Care Center, and I asked him about this model that they use, a hub and spoke model to connect people to resources in the community. Because
this is just triage, basically. I mean, they'll help them, but then they'll find where they need to go for long-term care.
Right. And there is an outpatient service that happens there, as well as inpatient. But the idea is to connect them to resources that will create sustainable support for them. But I asked him about this, and he said, we don't need 1,000 crisis care centers. We just need the connections, right? Yes. We need a few of these in key places, and then the connections to the community resources that do provide support to people in that area. And I think that's how we can replicate it, right? Finding those key areas, and then also finding the resources in the community that we would be, happy to send people to for support.
Yeah. I think one of the greatest challenges with mental health delivery systems is that people don't know where to go.
Right.
They don't know where to look. And when you're in crisis, you can't even do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so they expect you then to navigate some sort of phone tree or find your insurance. It's fascinating to me, because people will contact me regularly, friends, and they'll say, just the other day, someone said, hey, I'm struggling with some issues with my mental health. Do you have anyone you'd recommend in Northern Utah?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, because we haven't lived here very long.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I would check with your insurance company and just see, who they've partnered with. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. And I'm like, how do people not know this? I mean, it's such a no-brainer to me, but of course I've been doing this for 30 years. But if smart people don't realize this, then yeah, it's crazy. We need better education. We need better outreach. But if people knew that there were, 3 or 4 places they could go in Salt Lake or Utah County when they were having mental health crisis or even just mental health questions, right? And said, can I go there? And the person could say, hey, fantastic. Here, let me show you what we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Even like subacute type things. Oh man, there's a lot of potential with that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for us to take advantage of what's already in place and make it a little bit more accessible.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Let's talk about Gen Z for just a little bit.
Sure.
So because we both have children that are
We do, yeah.
What's your assessment of just like their overall mental health in the workplace particularly?
Sure.
Tell me, we talked a little bit about this before the podcast, but tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I do. I have a few Gen Z, and I'm constantly amazed at their capacity, their desire to make change, to be big. They want to be, have an impact, make a difference. Yeah. I work with a youth advisory council right now, and this group is helping Vibrant Emotional Health put together a festival to support them and their age group in mental health resources, combining some access to care, tools, and resources in a fun way that's actually sustainable for them. And I think that this whole generation is interested in finding systems of support that help them be well, be brave, and to make change. And when our generation, when we can tap into what we have already built and recognize that it worked for us while it worked, and it's not going to work forever, we can practice some adaptations. Yes. And let this generation really help us all become better than we were, on our own. Yeah.
What a novel approach. Ask them, right? Like you're with this advisory council, right? Like what needs do you have? What would you think would be helpful? I think that is one of the log jams that we have is people of our generation or our parents' generation. And they're saying, well, this is the playbook we always used, right, and it worked fine for us. And so we just pass it to Gen Z and say, here's the playbook. And they go, this playbook stinks. This doesn't work at all.
I think that's true. And I think we kind of have this like fear of change, right? That there's that means something if we evolve. It means we didn't do it well or something. I don't know. But I think that they challenge us to think a little bit differently so that when we can be a little bit more flexible, we can actually improve a lot working together with them.
Totally. Yeah, I think it'll have to be a partnership and different and good for us too, right? Mm-hmm. Our generation to think more flexibly and to look at problems differently.
Yeah. I was talking to one of my children and they mentioned that that one of their challenges in the workplace is that there are policies in place, like, for example, PTO. They have access to PTO, but none of their leadership takes it. So how are they supposed to trust that they actually can take time off, right? And I think this is one of those places where we need to support our own rest and recovery. Yes. And that's not how we got to where we are. Most executives have worked tirelessly to get to where they are, but this next generation needs support. And frankly, we do too. So when we start to model that for them, then they'll have more trust in the system that helps us all evolve into something better.
And the potential fallacy is, like you said, these executives that are our generation or maybe older have done this, tireless grind, and that's where they've got success. And we think, well, then that's the only way to get success, right, is to replicate that. And I don't know that that's actually true. I'm sure there are probably many ways to get to success that we haven't discovered. And maybe we find ways that don't require such intense personal toll. Not that we shouldn't be eager and work hard. I mean, I think there's that thing, but I do think the rising generation is going to teach us some things that will probably be very helpful in the long run about taking time and saying we need time to relax and recharge. And like you were saying, the example from the top down, anyone that's listening to this that is the leader of an organization, if you are providing an example that is opposite of what you want your followers to follow, then you're in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
You say, I'm taking my PTO, you send it out in an email to everyone and say, I'm the boss and I'm taking 4 days off and I want you guys to make sure you take some time off, when you need it.
Well, and I think this next generation, they like trust.
Yes.
And so when a leader takes time off and provides clear expectations and some consistency around what they need done while they're away, it actually helps encourage success of anyone that is working with that leader. They develop skills they didn't know they had or that they could use in their roles. And I think it's a way for us to mentor a younger generation or even those in our organizations to do more and be stronger because we trust them.
Yes. I think we're way past the kind of the older model where people wanted to work for the benefit of the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to say, well, we want the company to succeed. And so they were loyal to the idea. I think people now want to be loyal to others,
Mm-hmm.
want to be loyal to people. And so they will work for the company. They will work for that because they believe that the leader trusts them, right? And so they become this team that works together towards a goal, as opposed to, even if it's a dysfunctional team, they're like, it doesn't matter because the goal is so important. I think if that team is dysfunctional, they will quickly lose sight of the goal and they'll say, I don't want to be in a place where I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel appreciated or I don't feel like I have, some say or some skin in this. And that takes building relationships. It takes connection. It takes effort and risk, right?
It does.
That's not easy.
It's not easy, but it's worth the investment because people are worth the investment.
It's so true. Celeste, thank you so much for coming in today and talking and just sharing your insights. You sound like an amazing leader. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time.
And thanks everyone for listening today. Remember that change starts with you, and together we can increase our mental health momentum.